I want to know how the Vespid 2s compare to the Vespid 1s and the Arles. And just for fun, and since I have a set of Arles Lustres at the time of recording, I'm throwing these in the mix too. I suspect that the Vespid 2s will fit somewhere between the 1s and the Arles, but I just don't know where they would sit. So let's do some tests and figure it out. I did test a set of Vespid 2s, the pre-production units, that were slightly different. Now I have the actual production versions in. DZO did send me these lenses to make this video, but they don't get to see this video before it goes live. They're not paying me to make it, and all these words are my own. There are a lot of differences between all of these lenses, but I'm going to ignore them for a second and just see how these lenses look next to each other straight off the card with only a color space transform applied. Here are some tests with my FX6 going through each lens and aperture range. I did not move the camera while running through these different tests, so the framing may be a little strange when it gets wider. I started with the 105, but I wanted to show how these lenses looked in exactly the same spot. When I'm comparing lenses, I'm really interested in how they look wide open and at what T-stop they sharpen up. Here's a side-by-side comparing all of these lenses wide open. I'll show each one on screen at once and then show you the side-by-sides, just so you can pause and inspect them if you want. This isn't a perfect test as the light changes between the lens tests, but I tried to time the light as consistently as I could. As a different test, I took my Arles and then shot it at T19 and T21. Arles T14, T15, T19. Here's 2 to 1. So this is about 19 to 1. 19 to 1. Then here's the difference between T14 and T19. And here's the difference between T14 and T21. Do you think there's a big difference between T14 and T21?
Which one's the gold one?
We're not using the gold one right now.
I bet the T4 is darker.
T4 is darker. Yeah, you're not wrong. Also, I want to go over the price differences of these lenses. The look is one thing, but the finances are pretty important here as well. The Vespid 2 6-lens kit is $6,300. Since these lenses are so new, I haven't been able to find reliable rental rates for these lenses. But for example, let's just say they're $50 a lens. A 6-lens rental would be $300 a day, and it would take 21 days to pay them off. The Vespids come in a 5 or 7 lens kit. The 5-lens kit is $5,800, on sale for $4,000. The Vespids rent for $50 per lens per day, so $250 for the set. You can pay these off in 16 shoot days or 23 if you pay full price. The Arles 5-lens kit is $9,800, and somehow these also rent for $50 per lens per day. So you would have to rent the entire set out for 39 days to pay these lenses off. The Arles Lustre 4-lens kit is $10,800, and I was only able to find these lenses on ShareGrid in Atlanta for $175. In my market, I would probably get somewhere closer to $100 per day per lens. So a 4-lens kit would take 27 days in my market, or if you're in a bigger market and you can get the higher rental rate, it'll take around 15.5 days to pay off. Before we get into the build quality differences, I want to tell you about today's video sponsor, Artlist. Artlist has over 400,000 high-quality assets like sound effects, music, footage, templates, and more available for your personal or commercial work. Artlist also has a suite of AI tools where you can create images, videos, and voiceovers. For their image generation, you can use text to create an image, or upload an image and describe how you want to transform your image. For video generation, you can use text to video or image to video and select which model you'd like to use. They have a lot of different versions like Veo, Sora, and Kling. I find myself using AI in pre-production to get my ideas across quickly to clients, but if you like using AI for your final deliverables, the Artlist subscription covers your work for personal and commercial use. I love Artlist for their music library, and their tools make it easy to find the song you need. Their filters make it easy to choose a genre and refine your results with mood keywords. You can narrow down the results by which instrument is used, if you want vocals or not, or adjusting the BPM. They also have tons of playlists to give you inspiration from different creators, moods, or types of videos. And they have a huge selection of LUTs, footage, and tools for your favorite editors to help speed up your edits. If you'd like to check it out, Artlist is offering 2 free months if you use the link in my description. Artlist has multiple plans ranging from music and sound effects, their AI suite, footage and templates, or everything with our Artlist Max plan. So you can choose which plan best fits your needs. Thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video. When it comes to build quality and weight, here's a table of all the different lens dimensions and weights. This took forever to make, so please like and subscribe for this one. I also put the minimum focus on this table, so spoiler alert, we'll be seeing this one again later. This is what the Vespid 6 lens kit looks like. This is the size of the case that you can take all 6 lenses around with you. And this is really nice because you can put all of these lenses and they go straight up like this. And there's not a lot of like dead space around the edges here. Keep this size in mind. I'll put them all on the table next to each other, but like keep this design in mind when I show you the next kit. This is the 10 lens Vespid 1 kit. And you can see like just the profile difference of these two. I know an audio guy somewhere is like losing his mind, but you can see just the sheer difference in size between these two cases. I need something white to like show back here. What can't a math bounce do? There's the side profile. This whole video is unhinged. This is what the Arles looks like. Surely there's a better way to do this. This is the Arles case, and the Arles case is just to like really quickly illustrate the difference in lugging the Arles lens set around with you versus the Vespid 1s versus the Vespid 2s. The 7 lens kit of the Vespids, and not only are these lenses just like smaller overall, they take up less space, but the one downside of this case compared to the Vespid 2 case is that I feel like this is the 10 lens kit and I only have 7 lenses and 2 adapters in it, but I feel like there's a lot of dead space between these. Like you could have fit these really like closer together and have less space around the edges, and the case overall would be smaller. It leads us to this tiny little Vespid 2 case, and I feel like this is a way better use of the space inside of the case. There's a lot less dead space around the edges and everything is like a tighter fit. I'll just put these in here to show you. Okay, this is like such a long-winded part of this video, but whenever you're taking the lenses around with you, this does matter, believe it or not. The Arles are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but lugging the Arles around, 5 lenses with you and adapters and cameras and lights, like it really does pay off to have a team when you're using the Arles. Beautiful image, but make sure you know what you're signing up for with those lenses. When it comes to flaring, just to get the specialized lens out of the way, the Arles Lustre skews really cold, but the flares are really warm. It's very easy to flare this lens, and I accidentally flared this lens when I was doing that low light indoor test. The Amaran f22C was almost kind of hitting the front of this lens, and it was flaring that lens, so this is really easy to flare. Again, it's a very stylized look. I absolutely love it. Onto the like common lenses. The Vespid 1s have the warmest and most apparent flares of these other 3 lenses. The Vespid flares warm and it's pretty easy to see the flares. The Vespid 2s are surprisingly well controlled and skew a little bit cooler. They do remind me of the Arles more than the Vespid 1s. The Arles are really well controlled here, but when they do flare, they tend to be cooler blue flares, similar to the Vespid 2s. These lenses have a very nice coating on them to control that flaring, and if I'm using like a really hard backlight and I don't want to completely wash out the image, I'll use the Arles in a matte box with like a hard matte to keep the contrast like as much as I can possibly have it. The Vespid 1s did struggle a little bit whenever I had like really hard backlight. They would flare, so I had to use them like a little more consciously of like blasting light down the barrel of the lens if that's not the look I wanted. Running through some bokeh tests with the Vespid 2s, all of these lenses and most lenses have some distortion wide open in the bokeh, but the 18mm seems to clean up by T5.6. The 24mm seems to clean up by T4. The 35mm cleans up around T2.8. The 50mm cleans up around T4. The 85mm cleans up at like T2.8. If you're being really picky, I would go to T4. The 105 is kind of unique here. It cleans up at T4, but you can still see like a hexagon pattern here. It's not perfectly circular. At T8 to T11 is when the bokeh is actually circular here. When it comes to talking about the look of each of these lenses, I think it makes sense to lump color and sharpness into the same section. The Vespid feels a little soft wide open. The center is sharp, but the edges of the frame are a little soft until T28 or even T4. Maybe T5-6 if you're really pixel peeping on some lenses. The Vespid colors feel pretty neutral overall and skew a little bit warm. I'm surprised at how sharp the Vespid 2s are when comparing them to the Vespid 1s though. The center of the Vespid 2s is sharp wide open and the edges sharpen up at like T28. It took the Vespid 1s until T4 or even 5-6 to sharpen up, but the 2s are sharp at T28. This was one of the more surprising results of these tests for me. It also translates to less distortion when you're comparing each of these lenses at their focal lengths. All of the Vespid 1s seem to have a little bit more distortion around the edges of the frame, while the Vespid 2s have less distortion. When thinking about distortion, it's not like I'm using a G Master lens on a Sony camera here and like the camera is applying all kinds of like lens corrections. We're not getting that with these, so there still is a little bit of distortion, like there would be with any lens, but there is less distortion on the Vespid 2s than the Vespid 1s. The Vespid 2s are a little bit warmer than the Vespid 1s. It's about as warm as the Arles. If you happen to catch my original video, one of the big differences between the pre-production lenses and these final lenses is the color. The pre-production ones were pretty warm, but these ones are more in line with the Arles. The Arles skews a little warmer, but I don't mind it. It's not overpowering, and I like that look. The Arles is sharp in the center wide open, and it takes till T28 to sharpen up the edges, or sometimes T4, like the 50mm. But in general, the edges sharpen up pretty well at T28. The Arles Lustre is a wild card here. This lens skews cold, but the flares are really warm. It's a very stylized lens, but to save you guys from looking at the charts, this is similar to the regular Arles, but it takes around another stop to sharpen up in the edges. I don't know if it's, technically it's T16. These are pre-production units from DZO that say T14 on the side of them. Technically they're T16, the actual production units. When it comes to minimum focus, here is a chart showing all of the minimum focus in inches. This is the one from before, but all of these lenses are usable in the way I'm shooting with them. None of them felt like the minimum focus was too far away. The Vespid 1s have an impressive minimum focus. The Vespid 2 again sits right between the Vespid and the Arles. If I had to be picky here though, the outliers for me are the 75 and 100mm Arles. When it comes to focus breathing, all of these lenses I feel like do a pretty good job. The Vespid 1 has some slight focus breathing. The Vespid 2s have a little bit more focus breathing, but I am only noticing because I'm looking at these and like really pixel peeping, and I'm doing huge wide open focus racks from minimum to infinity. This is the worst the focus breathing would ever be. For smaller focus racks, I did not find this distracting. The Arles are pretty well controlled, but wide open, it almost seems like there's more focus breathing than there actually is, because at T14, it just seems like everything is so blurred out. It makes it look like there's more focus breathing. You can find it if you're looking for it, but again, unless you're like a cinematographer, I don't think you would be able to see the focus breathing between these lenses. The lenses that I think are like a little too aggressive with the focus breathing is the Typox Simera-Cs, specifically like the 75mm I can definitely notice. So I can tolerate some focus breathing, but I feel like that is like the line of where I feel like I notice the focus breathing. Also, I was going to include the Typox Simera-Cs against the Vespid 2s. At the price point, like these are similarly priced-ish, so I could see why people would want to compare these two lenses together, but after using all of these lenses and just making like 2 videos about the Typox Simera-Cs, these lenses feel a bit different than these lenses. Like, even though this is a very stylized version, it still has a lot of characteristics of the regular Arles. This one is like kind of in a league of its own, so if you would like me to make a video comparing the Vespid 2s to the Simera-Cs, let me know in the comments down below and I'll totally make that video. But it felt like this was just like too much of an outlier to compare it. This would like completely derail the entire video and it'd be like 2 hours long. The next section here was just some miscellaneous thoughts while I was out using these lenses. The first one is the lens element adjusts in the back when you're focusing the camera. So if you take the back lens cap off here and you adjust focus, the back of the lens actually protrudes. So I don't find myself using like rear filters, but I could see this potentially being a bit of an issue. I think there are some other people out there that use the Mofage Poco with these lenses, and I think they work, but don't take my word for that. If you know, please let me know in the comments down below. The next thing I wrote down about the Vespid 2s is that you can have lens data from either the back of your lens mount here or this LEMO port. This is pretty interesting of a move for DZO to include that in these lenses at this price point, because I'm not sure if a lot of people remember, but the Vespid 1s had another variant called like Vespid Cyber. And the Vespid Cyber, I think, was only available in like a 3-lens kit, and they were like 25 or 3 grand a piece, you know, times 3. That really adds up if you need that lens data. So I think the only difference between the Vespid 1s and the Vespid 1 Cybers was that lens data. So it was a very interesting move to see lenses at this price point, including that like premium feature. The next thing I wrote down was actually a question, and it was, what is the difference between T1.4, T1.9, and T2.1? And is it enough for me to just make a buying decision on that alone? Like, do I need the biggest, fastest lens I could buy, and I just have to deal with the weight and all of the other things that come along with it? Or is T1.9 enough? So I did a lot of tests between T1.4, T1.9, and T2.1, just for the sake of example. And personally, I do think it is, in some situations, worth it going for the T1.4 versus the T1.9 if that's the look you're going for. However, sometimes I do find myself filming products or people from like T4 to T5.6, or products, I'll go to like T8 or T11. But then that really has less of a difference between these two lenses specifically, because I feel like they share a similar look. It's not exactly the same, but you could use them together and really get away with it pretty easily. So then maybe having a T1.4 lens doesn't make that much sense. And then having a T1.9 lens and having, you know, it being more affordable, I can get 2 of these lenses for the price of 1 of these lenses, roughly, depending on which lens I want. It's a really tough decision to make, and I'll speak on that again in a second. The next thing I wrote down was, I wish there was a Vespid 2 or Arles 90 or 100mm macro. I've been on a string of like shooting product videos, and having a cleaner look in a cinema lens at 100mm for products specifically is really something that I think that makes the product look really good. The Vespid 1 does have the macro, and I use it a lot, but it kind of comes along with like a little bit of a look. So if I'm going for a plain sterile look, I won't use my Vespid 1 macro, I'll use my Sony 90mm macro. That lens is very sterile and plain, but having, again, kind of in the middle of like super sterile Sony lens or very stylized Vespid 1 lens, that's where these lenses kind of fit in. And having a 100mm and like a 20, 24, 25mm would be great for those macro lenses. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it's nice to think about. The next thing I wrote down was, if you're using these on a gimbal, the Vespid 1s and Vespid 2s will work on the RS4 Pro with the LiDAR, focus motors, and transmission. The Arles will work on the RS4 Pro with a smaller camera like a FX3, but it won't work with the transmission. It will work with the LiDAR and focus motors though. So the transmission sets it over that weight limit. So if you want to use a lens that looks like the Arles on the RS4 Pro and you want to like output a feed far away to Video Village, I think that's where the Vespid 2s come in really handy, because they're T1.9, they have a similar look to the Arles, but they're lighter, so you can put more stuff on your gimbal and not overpower the motors and have it like freak out or not be as stable as it could. When it comes to different lens combinations, this is where things get a little interesting. This might be a hot take, and I swear DZO did not tell me to say this, but all of these lenses are different or similar enough that you could get away with owning multiple lenses from different sets or multiple sets of lenses. These range from a little more affordable to a little more expensive, and they range from clean to a more creative look. I think if you want an affordable, clean lens set, the Vespid 2s are the right choice to make. If you want something a little bit faster and it's still clean, you can go with a set of the Arles lenses. If you want an affordable creative lens set, you can go with the Simera-Cs or the Vespid 1s. Or if you have a little bit more of a budget, you can go with the Arles Lustres if that's the right choice for your shoot. If you want small, clean, creative sets, then maybe go with the Vespid 2s and the Simera-Cs. I think this could be a fantastic complement to each other. You might not use them on the same project together, but if you have a creative look one day and a clean look the next, and you want a small, lightweight kit, this could be the kit to go with. It really comes down to what your project needs are. It's a great time to be in the market for a set of lenses. The tough part is choosing which of these set of lenses to get. Let me know which ones you would choose and what you shoot and why you would choose them. I know it's a tough choice and it took me a lot of testing to figure out which lenses I wanted. Here are some more cinema lens videos on screen now if you'd like to check them out. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Here's your favorite lens.
I love it. I love it.
You just like how it looks.
I mean, it's crispy.
It's crispy.
I can't wait to see more of them at the National Association of Broadcasters Conference in Las Vegas, April 18th through the 22nd.
Are those 2026 dates? They are.
I'm so much happier about, because the later in April, the more warm it'll be, so it'll be more pool weather for me.
You just are thinking about the pools. I think you're just here for the zip line.
I am. You think I care about walking around?
I'm going to put that in the video so everyone knows that you don't really like it that much. I don't think it's a big surprise.
My favorite part is the Sony, where I can pretend like people are in a sitcom and make my own video.
You can move the cameras around. Okay, we got to run through this one real quick.